Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race, our common enemy is death. Welcome on my channel, Try Something.Vegetarian on YouTube. This is the broadcast Massive European Elections Voting Fraud. Nikola Tesla's Scalar radiant energy used to rig elections. There was no room for a question mark, but perhaps it's not necessary. This is just a topic for today's broadcast. And I'll start with an intro, and then I'm gonna read an article from this website. Here we also find more information about the pedo elite. And on revolutionaireonline.com we find, I have to translate this from Dutch, massive riots with mass arrests after protests against EU vote scam in Brussels. So that's another article people can read. Let's go to page 2 because Dr. Cat already reported about this. And this is the article that I'm going to read. You can see, or actually I'm only using part of this article. And Google Translate, well, you can see that it doesn't translate very properly. Many things are simply not translated correctly. So I think there is room for improvement with Google Translate. George Soros voting booths, facts about Smartmatic, George Soros connection to voting machines, Business Insider, George Soros, quote, controls, unquote, voting machines in 16 US states, newspunch.com. AP News reports Soros not owner of company that assembles voting machines. So we can also look into that. Perhaps read the Business Insider article. And then we're going into the election results a little bit. So here we can see the 2019 European elections, seats distribution in European Parliament. And red and blue are the biggest ones. European United Left, Nordic Green Left is red in this thing, I think. And blue, dark blue, is it European People's Party? And yellow, Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe. We don't see names of these parties that we voted for in any way. So I'm kind of new to this as well, I think many people are. EU elections wake-up call for centrists amid Euroscepticism, climate inaction, the dictatorial EU with the eco-tax money scam. Some call it ClimateGate, the global warming hoax, and Trump also made clear that it's a hoax in reality. So in reality, first they'd have to establish that it's not natural global warming. There are natural fluctuations, ice ages, warm periods. And then if it is man-made, then it's weird that they leave out the ionospheric heaters. So basically, if you're talking about man-made global warming, how could you leave out something that punches holes in the Earth's ionosphere, that uses gigantic amounts of energy, natural gas, these ionospheric heaters, cloud seeding, trapping the heat between the cloud and the earth. Cancer chemtrails are real. This Project Cloverleaf, CIA's evergreen aviation, cloud seeding patents, etc. also make that clear. So that's a conspiracy fact, because it's also clear they're lying about this, pretending that they're contrails, condensation vapors, and that's disproven by the fact that before 1998, when you look on video material and pictures of before 98, you can't see any long lines in the sky that hang there for hours. So the condensation vapors evaporate quite quickly, and the cancer chemtrails do not. So that's the proof, the evidence that they are cancer chemtrails and not cancer contrails. But enough about this. Let's go back to the other articles. And the Euro skeptics, Greens and Liberals make major gains in EU elections. Well, the man of Revolutionaire Online, Dr. Kat, Micha Kat, Dr. Kat, if you will, he thinks that it's impossible, this shift, political shift. Nobody saw it coming. All these poll people, all these professionals, nobody predicted this, and that's impossible according to him. And he sees that as evidence, more or less, that voting fraud has been perpetrated against the people of Europe, committed against the people of Europe. So let's read my intro about this, and then I can check other things for you all.
Broadcasting live from the Universal Peace Room. This is Try Something.Vegetarian on YouTube. I'm your host Ulrich B.C. Hoffman. Massive European elections voting fraud, Scalar radiant energy Nikola Tesla used to rig elections. From the #1 website exposing the pedo elite in the Netherlands, revolutionaireonline.com. Breaking, Giga voting box fraud around Frans Timmermans used by NWO to set the tone for other EU countries posted in Politics on May 25, 2019. Author, Micah Cat. Financial Times. The Dutch choose massively and cheeringly for pro-EU parties and for their new Führer. Frans Timmermans is the Dutch fraud intended to roll out the red carpet to similar frauds in other EU countries? Fraud in England is already established. YouTube chat remark, P-Hawk, get rid of source voting booths. Electronic voting, also known as e-voting, refers to voting using electronic means to either aid or take care of the chores of casting and counting votes. Electronic voting systems for electorates have been in use since the 1960s when punched card systems debuted. Breaking, Giga voting box fraud around Frans Timmermans used by NWO to set the tone for other EU countries posted in Politics on May 25, 2019. Author, Micah Cat. Financial Times. The Dutch choose massively and cheeringly for pro-EU parties and for their new Führer. Frans Timmermans is the Dutch fraud intended to roll out the red carpet to similar frauds in other EU countries? Fraud in England is already established. YouTube chat remark, P-Hawk, get rid of source voting booths. Electronic voting, also known as e-voting, refers to voting using electronic means to either aid or take care of the chores of casting and counting votes. Electronic voting systems for electorates have been in use since the 1960s when punched card systems debuted.
So in this case, I'll also play a video of the voting process itself. People had to put a red dot on a piece of paper that goes into a box, and then they count it, and then I wonder if they use a computer to count the total of votes, then the rigging with Nikola Tesla's technology is possible, of course, with wireless energy, radiant energy. The Scalar patent broadcast that I recently did also explains and goes into these patents that actually describe how they can remotely torture people and remotely monitor people's brainwaves, as explained in the Malich patent, for example, the apparatus to remotely monitor and alter people's brainwaves and induce any emotion. That's the Hatayama patent. And Tesla's Scalar patent, that's the radiant energy patent, is also covered in that broadcast, as well as Dr. Bernard Eastland's HARP patent, and that describes what they can do with this technology. Another good article is 12 Things You Need to Know About Scalar Weapons by Christy Verismo. I might cover that again on my channel. So with this technology, they can remotely switch on and off things, and computers basically work with the principle on or off ones and zeros. And of course, it's hard to prove. So because it's not proven yet, you have lots of people denying this, and they say it can't be done, it's not done, etc. But they cannot disprove to me that they have rigged these elections with this technology, because it's so easy with a neural network. They can even scan the human mind, as explained in the synthetic telepathy patent, also called remote neural monitoring by some. The Malich patent, Malich, Robert M. Malich perhaps. So they use two beams of radiation, and the difference between these two beams contains their bioelectric field, and that contains their EEG, EMG, and EKG. So that also contains their brainwave, and that is filtered out. And they want to keep this technology hidden from the public. So that's why in the mainstream media it's covered up by reports about spying on your cancer cell phones and your emails, but in reality they're reading your mind, and they use synthetic telepathy. And of course only the intelligence agencies, some even go as far as to claim that only the NSA has the code, the algorithm, to decode the human brainwave. Of course, a lot of this is theoretical, so I try to indicate when something is a conspiracy fact. For example, the conspiracy to reduce the global population is a conspiracy fact proven beyond any reasonable doubt by the book quotes and $1 Million Georgia Guidestones. But you can imagine, if it's real, how could anybody prove it's real? They need a scalar detector, they need a Tesla plasma shield if they don't want their own brainwaves to be modified, because it's not just monitoring people's brainwaves, it's also altering people's brainwaves. So that way, voting fraud can also be achieved by altering people's brainwaves, and that might be even harder to prove. And well, one thing they could do is vote by hand and count by hand, make sure no computer is used, and then you can be 100% certain. I argue that you could also register every name of every person with what they voted, and that way it can be checked. Because even if you'd vote by hand, then people could commit fraud. I don't know how they count. They say they get the form, and then they say a name probably, and then somebody else jots that down or something. Perhaps these forms go into a gigantic robot that checks for who a person voted by looking where the red dot on the paper is. But I think somebody is checking that, and they read it, and then they jot it down or count the votes. So I don't even know the process in this case, if it's even possible überhaupt that they have rigged these elections. If it would be possible to alter the number you see on your screen, and any number, with this wireless energy technology, which alters the ones and zeros on the hard disk directly, then at least in theory it is possible that they have always been able to determine the outcome of electronic voting machines, and that they've always been rigged. So that's what this article is about. So yeah, if a computer was used, then I don't believe in the voting result. So I'm not going to assume that they really voted for them if they used a computer somewhere down the line in the process of counting these votes, basically. So I imagine that they have a computer and then they look at what a person voted and then they click on the person that they voted for and then the computer registers that. So then it's in fact electronic voting, while everybody thinks they jotted it down on a piece of paper. It was not an electronic voting booth. So then it was done later down the line. It can also be that these are the real votes of the people, but I have my doubts about this. So let's read the rest of the interesting, well, this is supposed to be concentrated, sublimated intel for you all. The stuff you really need to know that they don't talk or tell you about. That they really don't want you to know about.
Their first widespread use was in the USA, where 7 counties switched to this method for the 1964 presidential election. The newer optical scan voting systems allow a computer to count a voter's mark on a ballot. DRE voting machines, which collect and tabulate votes in a single machine, are used by all voters in all elections in Brazil and India, and also on a large scale in Venezuela and the United States. They have been used on a large scale in the Netherlands but have been decommissioned after public concerns. The World Wireless System was a turn of the 20th century proposed telecommunications and electrical power delivery system designed by inventor Nikola Tesla based on his theories of using Earth and its atmosphere as electrical conductors. He claimed this system would allow for the transmission of electric energy without wires on a global scale, as well as point-to-point wireless telecommunications and broadcasting. He made public statements citing 2 related methods to accomplish this from the mid-1890s on. This means it is very well possible the electronic voting results have always been controlled by others with wireless energy, the same technology that was used to crash these cancer-causing detonatorless fly-by-wire planes into the WTC, not by the voters. Of course, they can not only monitor and alter people's electromagnetic brain waves but also fry circuits of devices, rendering any nuclear weapon inoperable, and remotely turn on and off equipment, alter data on hard disks, crash fly-by-wire planes, and remotely control voting results and influence the results of any test or measurement that uses electronic equipment, to name but a few of their capabilities. Of course, they will deny this, like they would deny the dental torture other targeted individuals have reported about as well. And use the brain-controlled masses to do it for them. Altering thoughts and inducing diseases is the most discussed application of the Scalar technology, but it is certainly not the only application of the technology. They can also look through a camera that is switched off, powering it with wireless energy but only the circuits that require power. In combination with through-the-wall radar, extremely accurate directed energy weapon torture attacks can be inflicted upon subjects even when the subject is in a flying plane. The illegal crop circles may have been made with the same technology, which can be satellite-based. On a mobile sea platform in the biggest ionospheric heater is a secret camouflaged facility in Poker Flat, not Gecko, Alaska. Frequency-independent phased array antennas, FIBA. Several patents reveal more insight into the capabilities. Dr. Eastland Harp patent, Milok patent, Hayama patent, and other mind control patents covered on my channel. Patents are not provided unless it's a working device. Brain control because I mind control. Use they don't mind if they're already mind controlled. Brain control means they can remotely control people like remotely controlled robots. They can hypnotize people when they are sleeping. People would not recall they were hypnotized if this was done successfully. They can create serial killers using hypnosis, Manchurian Candidate movie. They can control a person's response in real time. They can let people that you have never seen before attack you. They can control large groups of people. They can control a person's emotions completely. They can monitor a person's brain waves, read your mind. They can brain map people's brain map, upload their memories into a neural network.
Well, technology is really disgusting. You could argue it's discussed online as well. The technology to control the masses. So as controlling large groups of people is meant like they can make them angry or loving, induce any type of emotion in all of them. So they don't really control the whole group totally by controlling the brainwaves in real time. That's not how it's meant in this case. Perhaps they can do that as well. But these are the things I am quite sure of they can do, not 100%. So I doubt if they can control a whole group of people totally, every person in the group, 100%, like remotely controlled robots. I think they're not there yet.
They can give a person a psychotic brainwave, a paranoid brainwave, impossible unnatural amounts of fear, or increase a person's intelligence to almost that of the neural network, no limit to neural capacity. They can send ideas in your own inner voice, merge with the subject so to speak, also see personality switch, hypnosis. The ability to remotely torture people means, they can program people with torture to never talk about directed energy weapon torture. They can remotely kill people by inducing heart attacks and brain bleedings. They can induce cancer and other diseases by cloning disease patterns. They can induce the maximum amount of pain by stimulating the nerves directly, pulsed energy projectile mode, and burn people's genitalia, active denial system mode. They can control judges and extort high-placed officials and the ultra-rich. They can let people that would normally never do horrible things commit horrible atrocities. Everybody without a Tesla plasma shield is a targeted individual. The neural network has time travel capability and it sees the future like you see it through your eyes or through a camera. 4 of the things they can do are possibly only theory, but it's possible it is fact not theory as well, like all the other things they can do. Where are you? I'm in the Netherlands, but keep it secret. We're a secret society. Visit my YouTube channel, Try Something.Vegetarian. Please remember to like, subscribe and share important videos on your timeline with the share button underneath this video. Thank you all for watching. May peace and true love accompany you on your travels wherever you may travel. Tune in next time on Try Something.Vegetarian.
So what's most interesting, I thought article about George Soros, Business Insider. George Soros is the subject of one of the more misguided conspiracy theories of the election. BusinessInsider.nl writes. Soros does not own the company in question. Also, the Smartmatic voting machines are not even going to be used in this year's election. So it may be total nonsense. Well, I'm happy I checked that out then. Maybe another lie of controlled opposition. Like the lie that the quote about imposing, creating a crisis big enough to impose their satanic Luciferian totalitarian global government, that is attributable to Rockefeller, and that's a lie according to other sources online. Facts about Smartmatic. They claim that Smartmatic voting technology has never been compromised. But have they done any tests? If these numbers are remotely altered, then you can always recount by hand to check if that's consistent with the electronic voting results. Has that ever been done? Or have they never bothered to check? So there is no evidence of voting fraud, let me put it that way. And without evidence, people can do anything, whether they have altered the voting results with remote Tesla technology, Nikola Tesla's death ray technology. And Nikola Tesla, the vegetarian Nikola Tesla, made clear that his technology is to end all wars. If they've planned a third world war, then that's not what he had in mind. A population reduction to 500 million is advocated by several people. So be prepared with the radiological water filter and storable food, y'all. Yeah, we can hear a new Trump announcement. So the broadcast is over, it's finished, the rest is just for fun. Don't know if it's gonna have anything interesting, so...
I'm going to create a third world war to build a temple in Jerusalem for my judgment and to reduce the global population to 500 million.
For my Jesuit buddy, and to reduce the global population to 500 million. Wow, that means 7 billion of us are gonna die. But if it's like Judgment Day, and it will be done selectively to clean up our planet of all murderers, and who knows who else, depends on how it's programmed, basically. So it's clear it won't be a nuclear world war if they've added scalar technology. And I also want to add that Europe didn't get to vote about whether they wanted to leave the EU like Great Britain. There was no referendum, no option to do that in the Netherlands. So I think what's happening is that they're gonna pay for that eco-tax money scam that Trump refused to pay for. Together with China, perhaps Trump or the Jesuits and Masons make them pay, basically. So besides making certain or verifying that it's really man-made global warming, not natural global warming, besides that, you could also look at the question, is it possible überhaupt to make any change in that with these measures they have planned? Probably it involves letting you pay 10 times for the same amount of energy. Something like that. So it's just hawks that are out to make trillions of dollars scam, according to sources online. And I did another broadcast about this, where I go more into what's really happening. There are different types of ice, according to NASA and others, NASA Freemasons. And they've also done the Apollo moon landing hoax scam, and nobody has been able to disprove that to me either. So there cannot be sound on the moon, and thus NASA's own videos prove beyond any reasonable doubt that the Apollo moon landings are fake, a scam run by the NASA Freemasons. And all Freemasons are Luciferians, so they pretend to be Christians, but in reality that's just a cover. Religion is part of their psychological warfare. So yeah, is it possible that votes were rigged? Definitely, because synthetic telepathy can also be used to sway people to control the human mind, basically. So perhaps it's like at the voting booth, it's like, oh, no, I want to vote that one. Oh, now I voted for Wilders. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh yeah, so that reminds me of the voting video that I have for you all. Let's see if I can play that. If the computer can handle it. Got CPU. We're already at 100% CPU usage. So then I have to check if I can turn some stuff off. Well, we don't really need to read this. I don't believe anything I read either, so we'll see what happens. And if there's a world war, then it really doesn't matter, does it? It's all erased by the EMP anyway, all your YouTube videos. And it's better to have a backup on CD-ROM or DVD than a hard disk. You can put your hard disk in a metal bin, ground it, then it's EMP resistant. So now now it should be playable. Oh yeah, and I added a chat to this thing. So if you write something in the chat, then I can show it in this video. So one thing I found kind of weird was that there was a market and I had to walk with my bike through the market basically to get to the voting room.
Ja, ik hoor erbij. Ik hoor erbij. Ik wou daar gaan staan.
Alle twee krijgen ze er één. Kijk eens alsjeblieft. En voor u ook, alstublieft.
Dankjewel. We hebben niet ingevuld voor de naam, hè?
Nee, hoeft niet. Nee. Goeiedag.
Hallo.
Mag bij mij.
Collega beginnen.
Oké. Oh, dan heeft u mijn rijbewijs nodig, neem ik aan.
Of een idee of...
Goedemiddag mevrouw. Nee, die niet.
Even kijken hoor. Dat is deze.
Ja, helemaal goed. Achter die van mij terug.
Oké. So the process is first people have to identify themselves with a passport or driver's license. So that's what I just gave. It's a small card, like a credit card basically, driver's license. And then you get the form and to fill in who you want to vote for. Let's see if I can turn off the mic with this shortcut key. Ja?
Mag.
En dan heb ik een formulier nodig? Oké.
Ja, die krijgt u van mij. Kijk eens.
Prima, bedankt.
Ja, dat weet ik. Bewaren als strijdpas. Ja, kwijt terug.
Mijn collega stembiljet. Ja, mijn collega stembiljet.
En hier van mij. Zo.
Oh, dat ja.
Kijk maar.
Oh, er is één, ja.
Ja.
Hier, hè?
Ja, die mag je doen. Oké, dank u wel.
Alsjeblieft.
Ik vind het goed.
Ja, fijn. Alsjeblieft.
Zo, hè. Kan ik Ik heb gewoon even een fout. Nee, ik zit hier. Oh, zit hier.
Ja, dat is goed hoor.
Ja, ik ga hier mee. Daarna gaan we tellen. Ja, gaat maar. Ja. Gaan we tellen. Ja. Welke tijd? Ja, spannend joh.
See if the mic is working now. Oh, okay. So basically, you vote by making one white dot bread placed in front of the candidate whom you want to choose, candidate of choice. The voting leaflet will must be folded shut so that the list of candidates is not visible, so you have to fold it again and hand it in. So yeah, I voted for Geert Wilders in reality, to balance. People want to open the borders and have an unregulated amount of influx of immigrants. I mean, and no control of the amount of people that they let into the country. So I think that we should be tolerant and we should allow Muslims and others into our country as long as there are no go zones. And in Great Britain and other countries where they have these no-go zones, they should close the borders until they are integrated. Of course, you all can have another opinion about it. And there are a number of reasons for this, so that these people can get the service and the health care and everything they need. So I'm just for the best solution for all people, basically. And I think that my one vote doesn't make much difference, so I thought for fun, let's give it a try. And actually first my voting bill was, stembiljet in Dutch, was, I had to search that. And I found another older voting billet to vote, but that was in some other type of election. I didn't use that one. But this is for the EU, so I thought it's pretty important. But at least Geert Wilders still has one vote or one seat in not the Senate, but the European Parliament. And I think PVV also has good ideas about other stuff, other important subjects. So that the mainstream media that they control is very negative about them, that's clear. I think you won't hear a positive word about Geert Wilders in the mainstream media anywhere.
Nou. Je weet al dat je op gaat stemmen? Ongeveer? Ja, weet ik niet.
Ja. Deze mag hierin? Bedankt voor de stem. Oké, dank u wel. Goedemiddag. Oké, dank u wel. Goedemiddag.
Fijne dag.
So that was me voting at the gemeentehuis here in Meidrecht in the Netherlands. Let's see if I write something in the chat for fun, if that works. It is possible that most Dutch people live a different life from the life I lived. They are more controlled by the mainstream media. That they don't have a clue of about what they're getting themselves into. How much it's going to cost them. Perhaps not just money, but also lives of people. So the dictatorial EU, well, this is not even loading. I have to say that, otherwise it doesn't load. Well, okay, slow mode is on. Voila. And now check. Try something vegetarian, say something. There at the top you can see it. You can also use this and then chat on. So if you write something in my chat now, then that will appear in the video. Oops, you're too late. Well, because it says say something on the screen, I'm reluctant to speak. Perhaps it's best if I stay quiet for the rest of this broadcast. Silent protest against everything. My silent protest continues. Check if somebody wrote something in the chat. No. Yeah, well, we will not go quietly. I think that's is more than a minute already. It should suffice. So yeah, I think that's more important, preventing World War III, creating universal peace. Prevent mutually assured destruction, total annihilation of 7 billion people. I talk about this subject, in my other broadcasts. On Try Something.Vegetarian, of course. I'm back. So yeah, this was the broadcast about the possible election fraud going on. So I think it's not so much about people hearing voices. Of course they have the technology and they don't do it with microwaves, but with scalar waves. That's one of the points I'm trying to bring across in my broadcasts. So I could Google if they voted, if they counted the votes with a computer. Perhaps they're all hooked up to the internet, and then they can just fill in the number, and then all these numbers are added, and then they have the number of votes for each candidate. Who knows? Who cares? Stemmen per kandidaat tellen van Europese verkiezingen. So they count the votes per candidate.
In Martini Plaza werd vandaag nog druk geteld voor de Europese verkiezingen. De verkiezingen werden al op woensdag gehouden, maar de stemmen moesten nog centraal geteld worden om te bepalen hoeveel stemmen er uitgebracht zijn per kandidaat. Om het proces zo transparant mogelijk te maken gebeurt het tellen van de stemmen in een grote hal, waar iedereen die dat wil kan bekijken hoe dit gebeurt.
So in reality, the votes are counted manually in a big hall, and anybody who wants to can come and watch how the vote counting happens.
Bij de vorige Europese verkiezingen werd al het telwerk al in het stemlokaal gedaan, maar het bleek dat met dit systeem soms fouten gemaakt werden.
Voorheen werd er op het stembureau 's avonds geteld. Mensen hadden de hele dag een zitting gehad op het stembureau. Daarna werd er eerst op partijniveau geteld, maar daarna ook nog op kandidaatniveau.
So then I think it could be the true vote, and that the brainwashed by the mainstream media that I never watched. Of course I do cover some mainstream media articles, but I use the internet, so I don't use what they present to me via cable TV. So I think there's a big difference whether you're selectively watching what's important and not all the other things that you don't really need. That may also be a smart way to program people to make them go in a certain direction. So they cannot disprove to me that people are remotely controllable with this synthetic telepathy technology. They cannot disprove to me that votes may have been rigged with this Tesla technology. And what was the third one? Why I mentioned this again? I forgot what I wanted to say. It's possible they selectively erase my memory. And with other people as well. Well, you can figure it out probably from what I said before this. They can disprove to me, climate change. They can disprove to me that there is no climate change, that it's all natural climate change, not man-made global warming. It can also be natural global warming. So if there's less ice, yeah, you have warm periods, you have cold periods, and species also die naturally, even if no humans would be present. You have evolution and nature's way. Really, nobody in the chat. Let's see. Still nobody wrote anything in the chat, so you all know for next time, check my channel. I usually don't announce broadcasts, so perhaps you can subscribe and then you get an email, and then if you have a warning signal for your email on, then you know I'm live, and then you could write stuff in the chat also. Of course, I may have to censor it also. Well, we'll see what happens. It's already on some sort of auto censoring. I'd have to check. So I'm not very familiar with the YouTube chat other than writing stuff in chats myself. And I can check some more of my most recent chat messages.
Miracles do not exist. Only Merkel is real. Andy Putt. One fake account. Autobot postings. Geoengineering, modifying the jet stream, weather control, ionospheric heaters punch holes in the Earth's ionosphere and cause global warming and possibly the next ice age. Floods in Iran. No coincidence. Watch the top 10 of subjects about which there is a mainstream media blackout on my channel. Try something.vegetarian. Peace and love to all in this chat and everyone worldwide. We don't need an Armageddon Mashiach but to control all factors that control aging in time. Islam is a totalitarian violent ideology because people who leave Islam are killed. All major religions are an abomination based on the same lie that there is a God and a hereafter. Two wrongs do not make a right. We must control aging. As long as we do not control aging, aging controls us. There is no honor in killing your fellow humans. The illegal wars in the Middle East and funding terrorists is not making the US more enemies because they know who's behind it. Geoengineering. Soldiers stop being heroes when they leave their OWN homeland. You can't defend America by fighting overseas, and there's nothing in the Middle East but Israel's enemies. Eric Dubé's voluntary strap. Come back home, guys. They washed your mind with lies and sent you all to fucking die. Eric Dubé, the best controlled opposition flat earther perhaps. A king is not as good as his advisors. Sometimes kings have ideas themselves as well. So it's total BS. Not beating Project Swords into plowshares just yet. Project Swords equals Talon Robot Army, Google BFSA. Radiological water filter. Storable food. Minimum requirements to survive any nuclear type event. Iran has no nukes, so any sanctions are unjustified and perhaps even illegal. Guns don't kill people. People kill guns. US spent more on the bloody war machine than all other countries combined. Military industrial complex. Cost of war. Are patriots like missiles. Ready to be fired? Wrong of Trump to call whole countries skipple countries. Apoptosis, the death of cells, which occurs as a normal and controlled part of an organism's growth or development. One of the factors that control aging. Massive European elections. Voting fraud. Nikola Tesla's Scalar radiant energy used to rig elections.
Yeah, it's very well possible, and I say they can't disprove it to me. Let anybody disprove it to me in the comments or Skype prologic999. I'd love to know the truth about the European Parliament election voting fraud. So could it be that they've controlled people that counted the votes? Should there be a recount? Could they demand a recount based upon the voting results that nobody predicted? Some people might have said such an outcome is impossible. Or, now that we know they counted it by hand, we can say, well, then it's impossible, and of course they didn't use Tesla technology for this one. Other elections possible. And I don't know what they base not likely on, but if it's electronic voting, I don't trust the voting results. And I don't accept anybody elected with electronic voting as my leader. And what you all do is your own business. You could argue, be wiser than serpents. And in a movie saw it's about perhaps about cutting off the head of the serpent. To replace or bring to justice people on top, the ones responsible, instead of the people that worked for them that had to follow orders and stuff. Some people may have followed illegal orders, they were arrested, I don't know if they're still in jail. And the person that gave the illegal orders, Bush, was not impeached, etc. So don't follow illegal orders. It is possible that some orders that they give are illegal orders, so it's good to read up a little on that, so that you know what they're talking about. I can Google that as well, of course. What to know about obeying an unlawful military order, thebalancecareers.com. Are soldiers trained to disobey illegal orders? Quora.com. The case law database. CLDIRMCT.org. Training soldiers to disobey, quote, illegal, unquote, orders. So I don't know a thing about it, I only remember that Bush supposedly gave illegal orders. And I've given overviews of why the use of depleted uranium was a war crime. And then others can come with a list why it's not a war crime or whatever. So it's codified law, and use of depleted uranium is a war crime because it's a weapon with an indiscriminate effect, a weapon of mass destruction, etc. So with the armor-piercing munitions, they can get through metal plates, etc. Through tanks also. And with the scalar waves as well, so they don't really need all that. But they want to keep that technology secret to have the advantage over everyone else. Everyone without a scalar weapon. Alright, Chief of Staff says soldiers must disobey illegal orders. Ynetnews.com. So if they say you have to flip the switch, push that button, then you can say, well, then they'd only kill innocent civilians on the other side. It's an illegal order. I'm not gonna annihilate millions of people just because they tell me to do so. And because it wouldn't get these people in underground cities or wherever they are located. It would only kill innocent civilians, basically, mostly. And the contamination would also reach themselves, depending on how far away it is. But if you're looking at a world war and 20% of nukes getting through, then that's still deadly for millions or billions of people if they don't have that radiological water filter and storable food. Superior orders. Well, I can read it because I don't know what it is, so. But I read that the Nuremberg trials testimonies were begotten under torture, basically. These people were tortured to confess to certain things. And it's well known, torture leads to false testimonies. They just want to make the torture stop, so they'll confess to anything with certain types of torture.
Superior orders, often known as the Nuremberg defense, lawful orders, just following orders, or by the German phrase Befehl, an order, is a plea in a court of law that a person, whether a member of the military, law enforcement, a firefighting force, or the civilian population, not be held guilty for actions ordered by a superior officer or an official. 1-2. The superior O. The superior order's plea is often regarded as the complement to command responsibility.
Well, what I'm trying to find out is what is an illegal order, basically, perhaps with an example also. And how can the soldiers know that it's an illegal order? We could read Quora.com.
Are soldiers trained to disobey illegal orders? Rogelio Lorenzo, 1-year service in the Spanish Air Force, grew among career military personnel. Answered July 31, 2018. Middle. Author has 331 answers and 902.9k answer views. I can only speak for myself, and I'm not sure how representative my own experience was. Bear in mind I was.
So what if you now have sergeant or whatever, General Ten Hut, and soldier, I order you to use depleted uranium. What then? Is that an illegal order or not? What do you all think? Let me know in the comments.
The conscript in the Spanish Air Force in 1995, at a time where the entire Spanish military was in the process of full professionalization. My own unit became professional only the following year, but still mostly composed of conscript troops. Our legal training during basic instruction consisted of having the entire squadron sitting in the airbase main hall listening to a second lieutenant, a non-professional himself. College students could opt to do their military service as junior officers, reading from the military regulations book in a droning tone for an hour or so, day after day, until the book was finished. At which point of course we were casually informed that we should then know the regulations by heart. But anyway, there was an exception in this whole training process, and that was when the lectures reached the point dealing with illegal orders. That day our captain showed up in the hall in the middle of the lecture. Everyone stood up at attention and he told us to perk up our ears and listen carefully. Then the second lieutenant, In a much more authoritative tone, read the specific regulations explaining orders in violation of the rules of war or against the Spanish Constitution are illegal and must not be followed. Then the lecture finished, all the officers left, and the NCOs ordered us to form by platoons and go to our barracks. Obviously the conversations among the unwashed recruits after all of this war centered about how the hell do we know if an order is illegal? That's when one of our sergeants came and ordered our platoon to make a circle around him. And he told us in an unequivocal and deliberate tone of voice, and a much more colorful choice of words, that what the lieutenant had explained was very important and we should take it to heart, but if we ever went to war and we little shits disobeyed an order from him, illegal or not, he would personally put a bullet into our lower digestive tract. Of course the chances of our particular unit, security force of the Air Force HQ, getting involved in actual combat before the end of our enlistment were essentially zero, but the nagging concern of what the hell to do if the situation arose remained planted in our heads, so let's just say our training on this particular subject was a bit unclear. 1.3K views middle.view 44 up voters. Orders in violation of the rules of war or against the Spanish Constitution are legal and must not be followed.
Well, another question is, can anybody quote me one codified law? Just one. And I think most people cannot quote me one codified law. And they're supposed to know the law. So yeah, the advice to the soldiers would be to study the rules of war and your local constitution, so that you know basic laws. And that way you can determine if an order is potentially an illegal order. But perhaps they should teach soldiers a bit more about this. A basic overview also of what they can do when they get an illegal order. Should they go AWOL, or are there other procedures they must follow? So I'm sure, yeah. So the S word was in there. This is not something I wrote. So sorry about it. I can't read the whole thing before I read it. Other answers. Khalid El Hassan. Also on Quora.com. Let's read this one as well.
Khalid El Hassan answered July 19, 2018 middle. Author has 1K answers and 28 meters answer views. I remember in basic training or 8 we were shown a video about not obeying illegal orders, and there were a couple of refresher lectures in subsequent years when I was with my unit about the same thing. So yeah, it's standard in the US military, although not something that was given a ton of emphasis. Then again, that was in the 90s, during peacetime, when it wasn't a pressing issue. I imagine there would be more emphasis on stuff like that nowadays. As a practical matter, though, unless it's a clear-cut cartoonishly evil order like shoot that prisoner or bayonet that baby, beat up that child to make her father talk, it's probably hard to disobey questionable orders in the gray zone. The deck is stacked against conscientious soldiers, and they bear the risk to their career and freedom if a court-martial decides that the order wasn't illegal. Also, most people want to fit in and not rock the boat, so a lot of illegal orders probably do end up getting obeyed. Also, my understanding was that soldiers need to decide on the fly whether the order is illegal, requiring that they do something clearly criminal, can disobey, or just stupid, like fix bayonets and charge across that open field covered by enemy machine guns to seize the objective, have to obey. Tony Burchill, nurse, 1984 present, answered July 19, 2018 middle. Author has 184 answers and 403.1k interviews. Yes, in the Australian Army, I received a few lectures about unlawful commands as an enlisted man, and much more detailed training on military law while doing officer training. At one point about 18 months into my officer's course, I received an order to assault another cadet. I refused to do so. The warrant officer too chewed me out, abused me, and generally made my life a living hell for 10 minutes. I held my ground, and asked for the order in writing. At the end of it, suddenly he stopped, said, "Well done, that man, that was an unlawful command." Apparently there had been other cadets who had gone to follow his order, were immediately stopped, and kicked off the course.
So with the Nazis, you can also wonder at what point did it become an illegal order? Basically, when you're gassing or exterminating innocent civilians, not soldiers, I think, then if the order is to do that, it's an illegal order. But I'm not in the army, so I don't really have to know. But if it's wrong, let me know in the comments. Please Skype Prologic999. I don't know if they torture you all to not watch my videos or what they've done. If it's just algorithms or a hacker or whatever. But my videos have an impossibly low amount of views. Still nothing in the chat, and the chat should be on, so there's probably nobody watching this broadcast live. But if you're watching this at a later time, thanks once again for all your likes, subscribes, and especially sharing stuff on your timeline. I think that's important, and some of my videos are awesome, and some videos are not that good. But there are no really awful videos on my channel, I think. Though if you think a video is awful, then drop a line or Skype Prologic999, and then I can think about removing it if you have a valid argument, and I'll just do that. Okay, so thank you all for watching. Tune in next time on Try Something.Vegetarian, and do stuff for universal peace, healing things, and sex is one option, masturbation or other sexual healing things. And if you're younger, you don't have orgasms yet, then perhaps board games is an idea, learning to play chess, or what's really fun and safe. I think that going to the beach is also healing. Then you can make castles made out of sand and all that. Downhill, I don't know. Without a parent, I wouldn't go. Efteling, downhill, etc. Or swimming. Swimming is just another idea. Summertime is coming up, but you can also do that in the wintertime in the tropical swim paradises around the world. My favorite desserts, yes. I like baked Alaska, but I haven't had that in a long time because animal products have to be bio-organic eco, otherwise I won't touch them. And I'm trying to cut down on animal protein and animal fat. And there were other desserts that are very nice. Baked bananas, or banana flambe, it's called. Exabayone. And I thought, well, it's nice to have it at least in one broadcast. This is Try Something Vegetarian, so perhaps I will make some broadcasts about foods, vegetarian alternatives for meat, for cadavers, the vegan Marquez sausages. If you like spicy, those are smoked sausages that taste like better than the real thing. They're really awesome. And that ice cream, coconut frostic coconut ice cream, without milk, without dairy products. It's just coconut milk with yogurt cultures, and that's awesome as well. So besides soy, some soy products are awful, and it should be GMO free, so it should be bioorganic eco soy. And I always check that as well. I don't want to become infertile, or to get AIDS, etc. I mean, there are people that are hell-bent on reducing the global population. Avoid GMO pork and soy, cotton and canola and animal products have to be GMO free, the bioorganic eco. So what else is nice food? Vegetarian cheese also exists. Vegetarian rennet is used to produce it. And in non-vegetarian cheese they use stuff from the stomach of the cow. Rennet, it's called. What else is nice? Oak smoked Gabine cheese, for example, from Ireland. They also have a vegetarian variant of that, I think, made with vegetarian rennet. And I've seen how they make that cheese, so that's, yeah, special flavor and very nice. Perhaps you can also order it in the Netherlands. You can Google oak smoked Gabine, G-U-B-B-E-N. So my parents had a house in Ireland, also a fish farm, and that got red tide, so these fish were jumping above the water. And I think it has to do with washing agents, soap, bad types of soap that may have to be altered so that you don't get red tide anymore. And the cause, they may further investigate that, so now they might know more about red tide than they did in the past. But I'm trying to stick to more important subjects. So basically the polluter has to pay, and they can look at what would be most effective at in a cost-effective manner as well. So how can we, with the least amount of money, make the biggest difference for the climate, for our environment? Not just the climate, but also the environment counts, I think. And then they'd also have to look at geoengineering, of course, these ionospheric heaters, punching holes in the Earth's ionosphere, modifying the jet stream, does anybody really believe these floods in Iran are a coincidence with all the other sanctions? So according to many, illegal sanctions based on nothing because Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. So I'm a truth teller. If there is any untruth in my broadcast, immediately Skype ProLogic999 or drop a comment so that I can correct that. Because I take it seriously, the future of the world, my own future, the future of the people of planet Earth. And most of them by far are not murderers, they're great. Some people are awesome people. Vegetarians, vegans, a growing group because people realize eating animal fat and animal protein increases the cancer risk. And yesterday I saw a video of somebody who was talking about DNA and RNA, etc. So I'm just smoking my pipe so you will never do it, basically. So I'm not going to talk about it now. I was talking about vegetarianism. And you can also find lists online of famous vegetarian people, also top athletes, vegans. And some people are more opposed to bioindustry. Don't know if they still call it bioindustry, but the smallest amount of space for every animal, producing most economically, not animal friendly. So I think you can get people united against that as well. And in the Netherlands, I think you already have great products, and they're already doing quite a lot of things for the environment and against climate change. And we're gonna hear that a lot more when the election results are like that. Then perhaps it will be the only thing we'll hear on the radio. Diversity and sustainability. 2 words to check out if you don't know what it means yet. Simply Google. There's a documentary, What the Health, that's on Vimeo, if that's still there. Otherwise you may be able to find it somewhere else. I found it very interesting, yeah. Well made. Of course you do have to take enough vitamin B12 and get your minerals, but with a balanced diet that's achievable. Some people also decide to eat tuna that has a lot of B12, dolphin safe tuna. But I don't eat fish, so I sometimes use vitamin B12 spray, and there are other things, vitamin C, etc. we find in the kiwi. Food, vegetarian food with most B12. Okay. because otherwise it's unhealthier to be vegetarian or vegan, can even be deadly if you don't get enough vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 food for vegetarians and vegans. Medical news today. Accepting continue to sites. .com. Health benefits. Formation and division of red blood cells, protecting nervous system, synthesizing a person's DNA, providing the body with energy. List of B12 foods for vegetarians: yogurt, low-fat milk, fortified plant-based milk, cheese, eggs, fortified cereals, nutritional yeast. That's monosodium glutamate. It may lower the blood-brain barrier, so not to overdo it, but I should eat more of that as well, probably. Get that boost. While seaweed, algae, and certain mushrooms all contain vitamin B12, they are not reliable sources because they do not act the same way in the human body. Studies have found that consuming these foods does not significantly increase a person's vitamin B12 levels and can still lead to a deficiency. A vegetarian should be sure to consume enough of the following foods on a regular basis. It is vital to understand how much vitamin B12 these foods contain. 8 ounces of yogurt contains about 1.1 micrograms of vitamin B12. 1 cup of low-fat milk can provide 1.2 micrograms of vitamin B12. 1 ounce of Swiss cheese can contain 0.95 microgram of vitamin B12. And 1 large egg contains 0.6 microgram of vitamin B12. And how much do we need daily? I can search on daily. Adults and teenagers 2.4 micrograms per day. 2.4. So then if I take 8 ounces of yogurt, 1 cup of low-fat milk, and 1 ounce of Swiss cheese, then I'm in the green. Then I have achieved my minimum daily intake of vitamin B12. Minimum required intake. Okay. Top 12 B12 foods. One animal liver and kidneys, 2 clams. I'm not gonna read all these non-vegetarian products. Fortified cereal is number 5 in this top 12. Fortified nutritional yeast, number 7. The others are fish, meat. Fortified non-dairy milk, number 10. And milk and dairy products, number 11. Number 12, eggs. Alright, so that's healthline.com, where you can all read the top 12 for yourselves. Makes me want to take some B12. vitamin spray to the rescue. Let's get this in the stream. Vitamin B12 spray. Ah, that's my empty bottle. Funny. It's next to my ashtray, so it's really quite dirty. So it's a good thing there's a cap on it. 500 microgram spray. METHYLCOBALAMIN, vegan certified. Serving size 1 spray, serving per container 175. Amount per serving. So that's the amount per serving, 500 micrograms, 8,333% the daily value or something. So now I'll have to wash my hands. Or perhaps the ashes are healing. Okay, so that's it for now. Thank you all for watching. Perhaps I can catch some sun rays out there. Yeah, please help spread awareness of my channel and spread important ideas, especially around the globe, to create that perfect society in which we all will live happily eternally in time, to get control of all factors that control aging in time, everything